the most common types of key performance indicators about suppliers. So they are usually grouped in 1, 2, 3, 4 topics, but we don't have to follow this organization. This is just an example. When it comes to product quality, the most common indicators are the percentage of defective products and the number of big problems, usually when we open an 8D for the supplier. Okay, many 8Ds, many big problems is not good. When we look at the percentage of defectives, we can also look at the improvement or non-improvement over time in the proportion of defectives. Is it getting better or worse? Also, some of the customers will tell us what their end customers, their own customers, return to them. Okay, this is very interesting for us, and we can sometimes say all of this is because of supplier A or supplier B. The cost recovered, so when we have big quality problems, we might charge it back to the supplier. How much did we charge back to each supplier? Okay, and the number of ADs that we open, and also do they really work on the 8D? Do they hurry up? Do they close the 8D or not? Okay. When we look at delivery, what's important is on-time delivery. So if they delivered 10 batches to us in the past month, if 2 of them were not on time, then this is a 80% on-time delivery. Okay. Also, if they deliver 10 components, they are supposed to deliver 10 components at the same time. 9 components are on time, but 1 component is late. It's a big problem for production, which has to wait for the last component. Okay, so this is important. And then also, if they say the lead time is going to be 10 days, but actually it's 20 days, that's a problem. We need to tell them, hey, you are not respecting the lead time that you quoted. When we look at cost, well, this one is straightforward. Do they keep increasing the price over time? Maybe every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, they keep increasing the price. Or, good news, we can get them to decrease the price. So it's good to keep this in mind. And also, do they give us ideas or help? Let's do this like that, maybe change the material, maybe change the process, so that we have ways to cut costs. A good supplier can help here. And this is cooperation or service, okay, the general way of working together. Can they hurry up to make some changes, maybe for a new version of the part? Can they hurry up to make new production very fast when needed? Is it easy to communicate with them? This can also be tracked. It's more subjective. Okay, it's not based on data, but all of this is usually based on data. Now, let's look at the costs of quality. Okay, let's look inside a factory. The cost of scrap, yeah, is not very hard to estimate. The cost of rework, we just need to keep track of how many hours of rework for each line. The penalties and the chargeback that customers charge us, also that's easy to calculate and keep track of. And also, when we do IQC, how many batches are rejected, that's also something we can follow up on. Okay? All of this is easy to see, easy to measure. Now, when we look at the hidden costs, they are difficult to see, difficult to measure, but sometimes they are much bigger than these ones. Okay, Takes time to the engineers, takes time to management. When there's some problems, we need to worry, to think what to do. Maybe we need to make some changes to the product, to the process, and so on. When we open an AD, a corrective action plan, or supplier corrective action plan, we need to follow it up, push the supplier, and so on. This takes time. Maybe the line is down, it's not working. That's quite costly. So we have to stop production. We need to have more inventory just for safety. If we are not sure that every delivery will be okay from the suppliers, then we need to buy more in advance and keep more inventory. That's very expensive, and it ties up a lot of cash in the warehouse. If we're busy doing some rework, obviously we have less capacity to do production. And if we deliver poor quality to a customer, not only can they give us penalties or chargebacks, but also they might give us less orders or even no order at all. And that's very, very costly in the long run. That's the most costly. Now, as a buyer, some companies have set up this kind of scoring system. Okay, it's just an example, or we could just translate everything in US dollar maybe, but that's harder. So maybe with points and how many times it occurs, that's easier to track. So how many corrective action requests or ADs, that's for one supplier. Okay, all of this is for one supplier. How many ADs did we open? Did we do an AD for a problem and then the problem came back again and we had to open an AD again? That's a big problem. That's really a sign of a bad supplier. If they don't even respond when or very, very slowly when we ask them to work on an improvement, that's a problem. When we receive some batches and we need to rework them or re-inspect them and so on, that's bad. When we do IQC and a wool lot is found non-conforming, that's a problem. So all of this can be tracked. Okay, how many occurrences times how many points. Okay, here internally, do we need to do a lot of inspection and testing on their batches? Do we have some internal failures, maybe meaning that in production or after our production we see some issues that were caused by these suppliers' components? That's a lot of dollars there, a lot of R&D. And the worst again is external failure, meaning after we have sent the product to the customer, do the customers complain that, hey, this is really not working the way it should, or there's a lot of defectives? That's the worst. Okay, letting the quality problems reach the customer. And then in terms of cost, well, late deliveries, often we have to, maybe we're penalized, maybe we have to expedite, maybe we have to send by air, maybe the documents from the suppliers have some issues, maybe just the supplier is not responsive. Okay, again, this is one way of tracking all of this. There are other ways. It's just an example, but it's possible to track all this. Now, we need to be smart. We don't need to do this for every kind of supplier. We need to work differently with different kinds of suppliers. So when we look at the amount purchased, very low amount, we can't do much anyway for that supplier. So keeping track of KPIs will be useful to see if it's a good supplier or bad supplier. If it's a bad supplier, we'll have to try to source a new supplier if that's easy. Okay, but if we purchase a lot from them, then we need to track carefully. We need to give them a lot of feedback. Okay, there's another training course on how to push suppliers. This is more for the purchasing staff and also the project managers in a sense. We need to spend more time tracking them. And then also some of them, based on the historical data, we know that their performance is good, or we know that there's a high risk, okay, based on historical data. Again, we need to track the KPI, then we know that. And this means we can deal with them in different ways. If there's a low risk, we can simply do random inspection in IQC, or maybe even skip IQC, or maybe just do IQC on 5 pieces. Okay, if we know there's a very low risk, it's a very, very good supplier. At the other opposite, if we know there's a very high risk and we buy a lot from them, well, we need to do more things. We need to spend more time going to their factory, seeing what the problem is. We need to spend more time talking to their managers and their engineers and so on. The whole attitude for managing them is different. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Just send me an email if you would like to go deeper into this. Thank you.